everyone, this is Goosebumps Godzilla, and today I'm talking about the 20th Goosebumps book in the original series, and that is The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight. And so, basically, this will be the third video in our Halloween event that I've got going on. I'm really kind of disappointed that it's October 30th and I've only had like 3 Halloween-themed videos. Tomorrow, I am hoping to make a bit more Halloween-themed videos. But anyway, again, I say, today we're going to be talking about The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight, mainly the scarecrows that appear frequently throughout this story. And basically, I'm going to be talking about how those scarecrows are actually being mind-controlled by an outside force not mentioned in the book of The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight. And so, pretty much with this video, there are going to be some spoilers for one Goosebumps book, and that is The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight. Due to that being, the main topic of this video, I'm going to be analyzing in depth into the plot and the villains of The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight. So definitely some very heavy spoilers for The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight. So if you haven't read The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight, I would advise you to not watch this video unless you want this book to be very heavily spoiled. Anyway, so let's get into the plot for The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight. Before we get into, the theory and stuff like that, just to give you a quick overview over The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight and stuff like that. And so anyway, the book opens up with the main protagonist. I really can't remember her name, but anyway, there's our main protagonist. She's accompanied by her brother, and they're basically visiting their grandparents' house for the summer, just like they do every single summer. But there are a few differences when they get there that seem a little odd. First off, one of the people that works at their grandparents' farm is named Stanley. He basically keeps talking about scarecrows coming to life at midnight. He actually says Scarecrow Walks at Midnight, which is the title of the book and stuff like that. And so he just keeps talking about that and stuff like that. And also, things are going on strangely with their grandparents as well. They are not acting as normal as they used to and stuff like that. They're also not making the same food that they used to. Like usually, they would make some sort of pancakes for the main protagonist and the main protagonist's brother. But now they're only serving cornflakes for breakfast and stuff like that. And just very minute changes also in the farm. The scarecrows have been replaced with these new eerie, creepy looking scarecrows. And not only that, but also the grandpa that is related obviously to the main protagonist, and the main protagonist's brother won't tell scary stories anymore, just like unlike he used to in past summers when the main protagonist has visited the farm. And so also another sort of change, is sort of a great piece of the mystery. But also, the main protagonist keeps thinking she sees the scarecrows they have moving. Like at one point she thinks it's just the wind. And so these scarecrows are just acting very strangely. And overall, the main protagonist thinks it's just Stanley's son. I think his name's Styx, basically just playing a prank on them or something like that. Due to him playing a lot of pranks on them in the past visits that the main protagonist has had to this farm. And so eventually they just want to pay him back near the end of the book. So the main protagonist gets her brother to dress up as a scarecrow in order to scare Styx. And so anyway, she tries to get Styx into the cornfield so he can be scared. So when she finds Styx, she tries to, trick him about the scarecrows. When it's eventually revealed that the scarecrows are actually alive due to one coming out of the cornfield and trying to attack the main protagonist. So apparently, it is said in the story that Stanley, Styx's father, basically wanted things to go his way for a change. And basically, he found this book of superstitions that allowed him to basically bring inanimate objects to life. You could say it's just the scarecrows due to that being the main thing that he brings to life in The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight. But also in twist ending, he does bring another inanimate object to life. But anyway, so he basically has this ability, and he wants to get his things to go his way. Sorry, that's worded a little strange, but basically, he wants things to go his way, so he threatens the grandparents to basically let him eat his favorite food, which apparently is cornflakes, and for the grandpa to start telling scary stories due to him making him scared, and he doesn't like to be scared and stuff like that. So the grandparents are basically living in constant threat of the Scarecrows being brought to life and attacking them. So they try to be as nice to Stanley as possible. And so, little to Stanley knowing, or Stanley, unbeknownst to Stanley, sorry if I'm talking a little strange, I don't know why I'm talking like that, but anyway, so, unbeknownst to Stanley though, the Scarecrows are still alive, even though he put them back to sleep, unless the grandparents to fight him again. And so the not the grandparents, but the Scarecrows are alive, and they're all throughout the cornfield. That explains all the weird stuff going on with the Scarecrows and stuff like that. And so one thing leads to another. Stanley accidentally brings all of the Scarecrows to life, or attracts all the Scarecrows to come to life, or something like. Because it's really weird, because the Scarecrows are already alive to begin with, but then I think he brings more of the Scarecrows to life, just because he accidentally says the spell that brings them to life, and so instead of a few Scarecrows being alive, there's all the Scarecrows being alive. So basically the Scarecrows all try to attack everyone at the farm, and stuff like that. And one thing leads to another, though. They get burned up by Styx, who has these flaming torches, and the Scarecrows and the Scarecrow Walks at Midnight eventually die. But before they die, though, there's an important fact that will be used later on in this video, and that is the fact that in one of the scenes, they actually followed the orders of the main protagonist's brother, who is dressed up as a Scarecrow. Basically, he was right there, and he was moving, and the Scarecrows did exactly what the main protagonist's brother did. And so anyway, that's pretty much all there is for the Scarecrow Walks at Midnight. But in the twist, just saying real fast that in the twist, Stanley was again reading the Book of Superstitions, where he accidentally brings to life a bear carpet rug, I think, from what I remember. But anyway, that's it for the Scarecrow Walks at Midnight. And overall, I'm not the biggest fan of the Scarecrow Walks at Midnight. It's an okay book. And overall, it is entertaining, but I don't know, I've never been really the biggest fan of Scarecrow Walks at Midnight. It's not really been my favorite one. I think there's much better ones out there, but overall, it's just okay. Probably in lower okay, but still a pretty good book. But anyway, back to the video and the theory that I was talking about. In the Scarecrow Walks at Midnight, you can see that the Scarecrows, honestly, are a little strange. First thing that's really strange and kind of puts you off is the fact that in the Scarecrow Walks at Midnight, the Scarecrows basically came to life without being brought to life by Stanley. Stanley's the one in possession of the spell book, so it doesn't really make that much sense for him to, for these Scarecrows to still be alive. And that I found a little odd about the Scarecrows, but not only that, it's their weakness to fire. So it seems like, since, they're made of straw and stuff like that, these guys would obviously not be fire resistant and automatically die to fire and stuff like that. But it's honestly quite strange, because in the the Monster Bags figure for the Scarecrow Walks at Midnight, you can actually see the Scarecrow holding up a burning torch in his hand, proving that he's not possibly afraid of fire and not even having a weakness to fire. I know that's kind of a minor piece of evidence, since it's a toy, they wanted to incorporate as accessories things that are featured in the book, and a torch is featured in the book, but it's honestly quite strange that a torch is able to fit in his hand. Not only that, if you take a look at the Danish, I think, cover art for the Scarecrow Walks at Midnight, you can actually see the Scarecrow with fire behind his face, basically, and you can see all this fire everywhere and stuff like that. Not everywhere, but, you can see fire, I think, behind his face. And also in the Brandon Dorman reprint cover art for the classic Goosebumps reprints, stuff like that, you can even see sort of fire-like stuff behind the Scarecrow's face in that cover art as well. And honestly, the first time I looked at that cover art, or the first couple of times, I actually thought it was a jack-o'-lantern with a Scarecrow body. It had fire behind its mouth. I thought it was jack-o'-lantern, stuff like that. And that is another huge piece of evidence to prove that these guys are a little strange in the fact that they don't seem to have a weakness to fire. And putting all that stuff aside, even in the Goosebumps film, a Scarecrow is actually gathered around the fire that is going on in, the Goosebumps film, when they're gathered around the fire, and there's this massive fire And it seems kind of odd for the Scarecrow to gather around, or the Scarecrow to be around or close to that fire, since it obviously has a weakness to it from the Scarecrow walks at midnight. And so those, I think, are some huge pieces of evidence as odd things that are going on with the Scarecrows, because it doesn't, they should be having a weakness to fire. After all, in the book, they seem to be killed off by that fire, but they seem to be still alive and also resistant to all kinds of fire, mainly because of those 4 things that I mentioned previously. Another very odd thing I found with the Scarecrow walks at midnight is the fact that the Scarecrows were replaced. Because in the Scarecrow walks at midnight, the main protagonist noted to herself that they had new Scarecrows. So we can obviously tell from the Scarecrow walks at midnight that you don't need a specific object to come to life using this book of superstition, due to the twist in the end, which, again, has Stanley bring to life a bear rug that the grandparents had. It's not a specific bear rug that they had, but it was just, a random bear rug and stuff like that. But then, if you take a look at the Scarecrow walks at midnight, Stanley replaced the Scarecrows, which seems kind of odd. Doesn't really seem like he would need these Scarecrows, obviously, due to the other object he brought to life not being a specific item. So obviously he does not need a specific item or stuff like that for the Scarecrows. And meaning that possibly something went very wrong with the previous Scarecrows. That actually might be why the grandparents are so afraid of these Scarecrows, because to be honest, these guys are Scarecrows. Can't really be afraid of them. I mean, I kind of get it, they're living Scarecrows and stuff like that, but they can just easily be pushed around and set on fire and stuff like that. And so that I found, again, as another very strange thing about the Scarecrows from the Scarecrow walks at midnight. Another very odd thing is that in the Scarecrow walks at midnight, basically, there is a scene in which, again, I did note this before, or said this when I was talking about the plot, is a scene where the main protagonist's brother was dressed up as a Scarecrow, and Scarecrows followed his every move, and just basically copied him and followed basically his orders, which is another very odd thing that happened in the Scarecrow walks at midnight. And so, obviously, you can tell there's all these really weird things about the Scarecrows going on all over the place and stuff like that. And so it doesn't really seem like Stanley's in control of all this. I mean, when he brought the Scarecrows to sleep, he didn't actually put them to sleep and stuff like that. So I personally think Stanley's not actually in control of these Scarecrows for a majority of the Scarecrow walks at midnight. I personally think that the old Scarecrows that have been replaced are the people who actually, or the Scarecrows, are actually doing all this stuff behind the scenes. Because keep in mind that these Scarecrows were replaced, and that really doesn't make much sense, if they already have Scarecrows, why would they need to buy new Scarecrows in order to this Book of Superstitions spell thing? So that was, a kind of minor piece of evidence I found to prove that these guys are actually mind-controlling the Scarecrows from the Scarecrow walks at midnight and stuff like that. But not only that, but there is the scene where the main protagonist's brother is teaching, or not teaching, but basically causing the Scarecrows to listen to his every whim, or not his every whim, but, they were following direct orders from him. We obviously automatically know that is not, the costume he has on is probably not from when the new Scarecrows, mainly due to them being on farm, and they probably don't want to mess up the Scarecrows. While they did steal a hat from one of the Scarecrows, I highly doubt they got the full costume, because first off, these Scarecrows are guaranteed to be alive, and so if they start basically killing the Scarecrow by ripping him apart, I don't think that would go on too well with the Scarecrow, and they'd realize that these Scarecrows are alive much sooner. And stuff like that. Also, again, this is a farm. These guys need the Scarecrows, or the grandparents need these Scarecrows in the farm. So I, again, highly doubt that they would just steal a Scarecrow from, off one of the things, get his clothes, kill the living Scarecrow, and also kind of mess up the farm a little bit and stuff like that, just in order to get revenge on Styx. So I personally think that they got a costume or that thing from one of the old Scarecrows. And that is why the Scarecrows are listening to them if these Scarecrows are in control. It has to be the old Scarecrows. Where else would they get a Scarecrow face and a Scarecrow get-up all together if it couldn't have been from the old ones? And so, yeah, I think personally they got one of the suits from the old ones that stayed asleep. And basically, the main protagonist's brother dressed up as the Scarecrows. And the older Scarecrows are actually the ones that are controlling the Scarecrows from the Scarecrow Walks at Midnight. And basically, that is why the Scarecrows actually listen to the main protagonist's brother. Because, honestly, it wouldn't really make that much sense if it wasn't the case. Because if it was one of the new Scarecrows, then they probably wouldn't listen to him. They don't listen to each other. So why would they listen to this specific Scarecrow? So, again, another huge evidence. They didn't just get this Scarecrow costume from the living Scarecrows. Had to be one of the old ones. And it only makes sense if this scene is correct, or if this theory is, or no. It'd make a whole lot of sense if the old Scarecrows are actually the ones controlling the Scarecrows in the Scarecrow Walks at Midnight. Because, again I say, these guys listen to the commands of this Scarecrow. They don't listen to the commands of each other and stuff like that. And so it only, again, makes sense if these older Scarecrows are in control. Because, again, it has to be the older Scarecrows. And these Scarecrows, it has to be one of the older Scarecrows, the costume does. And, you know, why would they listen to them unless these old Scarecrows are actually in control? This not only would make a whole lot of sense and seems to be proven from that one scene, but also it does make a whole lot of sense due to the fact that the grandparents would be afraid of him due to this going wrong. That's why Stanley would overreact to see these Scarecrows still alive. That's why Stanley wouldn't tell him about the Scarecrows still being alive and stuff like that. And also, it would make sense for the death of the Scarecrows who were set on fire. I think personally that the evil Scarecrows, or the older Scarecrows, actually commanded the, Scarecrows to actually kill themselves with the fire, just because, they wouldn't like to be replaced and stuff like that most of the time, because you can see in other Goosebumps books where you have inanimate objects brought to life, when it's being replaced, that basically living being typically does not quite enjoy that. So I think that's possibly why they killed off these Scarecrows. And also that would explain the fact of how they got the new Scarecrows, or why they got the new Scarecrows, why the grandparents are so afraid of them, why the Scarecrows would listen to the main protagonist's brother in the first place in that little scene, and also how come they died in the fire. It would just explain a whole bunch of other mysteries in the Scarecrow Walks at Midnight. And so anyway, guys, I think there's a bit more evidence, but that's all I can remember currently. And so anyway, guys, thank you guys so much for watching, and tell me what you think in the comments section below. Do you think that the Scarecrows from the Scarecrow Walks at Midnight are being controlled, or, by these older Scarecrows that have been replaced, or something like that? Tell me what you think in the comments section below. But anyway, guys, that's the end of my video, and I hope you enjoyed.